Money to make, drugs to take, hordes to kill. Hong Kong is so kind to me. Thus, we have our opening lines to Planetary number 3. Okay? Planetary number 3 explores the genre of Chinese slash Asian action films, right? And right off the bat, it's got a very cinematic feel here. Again, something that's influenced comics because in the 60s, the cinematic feel is what Kirby brought to comics, right? Kirby loved movies and he taught Steranko a few little tricks, and Steranko just freaking blossomed, even, to what we know as the Nick Fury. I mean, the man brought pop culture to comics. But what they both did was the innovation of picturing some of their layouts in comic books, as if they were on the big screen and things, right? In the world of movie adaptations coming from comics and comics doing movie adaptations, there's a little bit of hypocrisy that goes on. Like movie studios will like have an iron fist on what can and cannot be put into a comic. Yet if they take a comic, they can do whatever they want and change whatever they want. Things like that. Just nature of the beast. Just an observation. Yet when you had Steranko and you had Kirby and a lot of these other guys, Kubert, and all these names you can bring up, I honestly have always felt that if they were on the West Coast instead of the East Coast, we would have had a whole different kind of cinematic freaking, world out there. And don't get me wrong, a lot of these comic book guys went to the movies and stuff. You'd be surprised who did the oh my god, I can't think of what it's called. Who actually worked on the feel and the design of the movies and the process of what's going on when it came to all sorts of movies like Indiana Jones. Brett Breeding, Steranko worked on a few movies. Just tons of people worked on movies. Even the writers have gone on to movies and things. The biggest one being like Frank Miller returning to Hollywood after the fiasco of RoboCop 3, saying he would never work for Hollywood again, to where he actually designed Sin City to be unfilmable and stuff. So the movies and the cinematic feel have always been tied together. One of the things that Steranko did to try to trick people into buying 2 issues that Stan Lee just couldn't wrap his head around, but thank goodness it went on, is that he did a 4-page spread in a comic. Okay, what he did is that you would open up, and this was like I think it was a Nick Fury Agent of Shield, or his Nick Fury stories and Strange Tales. Who knows? But he did a layout where it took up 2 pages. Yet when you turned the page, it was 2 more pages that would connect to the other 2, and in his mind, that would make people want to see those 4 pages all together, and it makes a widescreen of action, of Hydra agents and Shield agents and Nick Fury leading the charge and things, right? Now, this issue also packs in the action. Honestly, the first 2 issues of Planetary is actually very low on action, and this one is a quick read, and bam, action, action, action. We open up with a gun casing hitting the ground, a dead body, and this man standing over this woman with it, and getting a getaway car, and then all of a sudden we see this phantom hand holding a badge, and we have a ghost cop. And from there, man, it is just all out freaking action. They try to run down the man who's actually a ghost, and as they ride through him, he just plugs them full of freaking bullets and stuff. Glasses everywhere, smell of gunpowder in the air, screams, screeching of tires. People are just flipping out, and he just goes after them. He keeps running after more and more of them. Just flat out, just big time action and stuff. The man with his 2 guns and the glowing eyes and his badge. It's a ghost cop. And then we have the hellfire of some sort. Killing one other person. Now, these reviews aren't spoiler free, but I'm not going to go into what this ghost motivation is. It's going to be the fun of reading it and stuff. But I'm going to allude to what it is. And the whole time we have our Planetary team there who are witnessing this, because up to this point they've been called in by the Japanese office, the Tokyo office in China, after being in Japan in the previous issue, of this ghost that people have been hearing about, and they finally laid eyes on it, and it's real, and now we need to find out what's going on. And basically, just to get it out of the way, for the light read part of it, the story continues. It gets revealed that Planetary has been around, longer and is older than they thought. Chiquita was under the impression that it's only been around for 4 years. They meet the head of the person who runs the office of Hong Kong, who says they've been there for 6, and she can't believe she's seeing the team. Um, a little bit more character progression, a little bit more of the mystery of keeping up of what is Planetary and who founded it, and more secrets coming out, and just a great, great story. Now, before I start spinning my wheels and try not to allude to what the story is and stuff, the issue is very sexually charged, and a good writer wastes nothing in there, right? It gets revealed that drummer is sensing some kind of machine. He can talk to machines. The drummer can, and they pull this machine out of the ground that is just huge and giant, and it looks like it's filled with maybe some ghost bodies or something. And our ghost cop appears, and he refers to it as God, and the drummer is able to identify this with what the ghost cop is saying, how he's trying to describe this big, massive machine in the middle of middle of Hong Kong, referring to it as God, and what he kind of talks about what the purpose is. Drummers like, wait a minute, this thing could be connected to what we found with Doc Brass in issue 1. We're with the snowflake, and that's the thread that's going through them, because I don't remember this machine ever getting really mentioned again, unless it's in future issues and maybe in a panel. I don't think so. Now, with it being sexually charged, I found that very interesting because it's very subtle. All right, because what I think this issue is really getting into when it comes to comics and that cinematic feel and the action of comics, it's also getting into anti-heroes and vengeance. And with the fire of that one person being killed by the ghost cop and stuff like that, it puts me in the mind of things like Ghost Rider on his motorcycle, Spirit of Vengeance, if you will, Johnny Blaze, the Spectre at DC. It puts me in the mind of like mixing that with our anti-heroes such as the Punisher with the guns. Guns being a very phallic symbol. The cops are talking about dead whores. Right before they find the machine, I think they're like on an old movie lot or something, and it's revealed that as a way of getting an actor to do something they wanted, they took the father, a man or something, they cut his genitals off and nailed him to a wall. Some very graphic stuff. Very S&M type, very sadist stuff, if you will, is what it's alluding to. And it adds to the feel, man. It actually adds, it's a different dark world that's still there, full of vengeance and anti-heroes and way things are done. A little bit of the dark side of comics, and stuff. So basically, it's a very satisfying issue. I also kind of wish I knew more about Asian culture. One of the reasons I'm not really into I like my samurai movies, I like my Bruce Lee movies, I like my Drunken Monkey, a few things. I like Korean horror, things like that. But one of the things that turned me off from Asian movies, and I don't know if it's specifically China or if it's specifically Japan, is they felt so very schizophrenic. Like the tone throughout the movie would change. It would be about vengeance. You killed my master, and then it'd be like honor and some serious fighting. And then all of a sudden there'd just be these goofy moments, like they're eating their rice roll. Things that were happening that I just did not understand were supposed to be funny, like eating the rice out of a bowl while people laughed at them and being kind of goofy or getting drunk and acting stupid. But what I did learn, and that can actually kind of play into comics a little bit when it comes to a variety of stories. The reason the tones changed in those movies is that in theater, and when it was originally just theater, 500, 600 years ago, whatever, not the place to get a real history lesson, but you get the gist, was that, people didn't have a lot of money. So when they did go to the theater, they wanted everybody to be satisfied and get all the bang for their buck, if you will, back then, because they were poor. They couldn't afford to go to theater all along. So they tried to make a play that had everything in it: fighting, action, comedy, drama. And that's why it always felt schizophrenic to me, and that's where it comes from. And just a masterful book. Again, it is called Dead GunFighters. Warren Ellis, John Cassidy. At this point in time, Planetary was still, on track with their bi-monthly schedule. It was getting steam. It was getting talked about in Wizard. I remember seeing a few more of them. Yet I still wasn't reading it at the time, so I was lucky to back up and get these. All right. Come back for issue number 4 in our next review here, because this is where it gets good, folks. Man, this is where it gets good. We're going to get into old movie serials. We're going to be getting into Shazam. We're going to be getting into Flash Gordon. This is where I was hooked. All right. Later, guys.